Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. We are going to be doing my most disappointing books of 2020. Some of these books are books that I had such high expectations for that they just were not, my expectations were never met. So maybe it was more of a too high of expectations thing for me. It wasn't really that the books are bad or disappointing. And also, I need to put this disclaimer that these are my most disappointing books. If you really enjoyed these books, then I'm very happy for you. It just didn't quite work for me, and that's okay. We can still be friends. I will try to explain to you why they're my most disappointing without spoilers. Yeah, it's going to be without spoilers unless I say different at the time. I also have to say that just because these books are on my most disappointing doesn't necessarily mean that I rated them badly. Because there are quite a few on here that got 3 or 4 stars from me. I was just expecting 5 stars. Or I was just expecting more. But let's go back. Where She Went was the follow-up to this, which I loved this wholeheartedly. I don't think it should have been a duology. It should have just been a standalone. Like a one and done type of thing. But because Gayle Forman wrote the second one, I had to read it. And I was very, very disappointed by Where She Went. Because it's 2 years after the fact when Mia and her boyfriend have one day together or something like that. I just hated Where She Went. And honestly, if I stayed, would have been perfectly fine by itself. I don't own anymore because I'm never going to read it again. But I did give it 3 stars, so it was an okay read. But I was expecting 5 stars with all the hype that was going on with this book. I read A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kemmerer, which is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. But I was so bored until the last, not even half, like last quarter of the book maybe, where I started to get semi-invested, but I was just bored with that book. Number 8. So I went into this book with the people telling me that the book was worse than the TV show. And I kind of had to see it for myself. That is 13 Reasons Why by Jay Asher. So I am a huge fan of the TV show, although I am 1 season behind, so don't spoil it for me. But I loved that TV show on Netflix. That Netflix show. I loved it because I connected with it and I felt the pain of Hannah Baker's death. And it's a book about a high school girl who commits suicide, and then she leaves tapes discussing why each person is responsible for it and kind of telling her story. Now, in the TV show, they do it so well that it's more like that's how you get her story, is through her tapes. And you kind of see what each person did to play a part in her death or in her depression, which led to her death. But it did not blame... I don't know how to explain this, because in the book, it was like, you did this and you're responsible. But in the movie, it was poetic. And it was just done so well as a TV show. But the book was just not. It was not beautiful or anything. It was just, you're at fault. Deal with it. 7. Oh, yeah. People aren't going to like this one either. So, There's Someone Inside Your House by Stephanie Perkins. So, I went into that one thinking that it was going to be like a YA horror slasher book. I think that this book is miscategorized as horror or a thriller or both, when really it's a YA romance with horror aspects. And it was very, very disappointing to me because I felt like I was reading about teens making out every other page. I don't know how people feel about this book because I actually don't care a lot about this book, but I read The Princess Bride by William Goldman. It's not a terrible book. I think, again, I gave it 3 stars, so it was, okay. But the problem is that I've grown up watching the movie version. And I enjoy the movie version a lot, actually. The movie's better. Don't even bother with the book. Now, this one, number 5 on my list, is on here because of the ending. I was really enjoying this book until the end, where the ending just ruined it for me. So I've actually read every single book that Geir Hendricks and Sarah Peckman have put out together because I really enjoyed The Wife Between Us. The Anonymous Girl was okay, but not quite as good as The Wife Between Us. Then we have You Are Not Alone, which is the 3rd one that they've wrote together. And it's on my most disappointing. I think I ended up giving it 2 stars because of this ending. But it starts off so good because you follow Shay, who watches this woman jump in front of a subway, therefore committing suicide right in front of her on her way to work one morning. And it changes Shay's life. So she kind of gets obsessed with this woman that she never knew, learning about her and everything, and then something happens and Shay becomes very, very obsessed with this woman named Amanda, who was the one that jumped in front of the subway. And somehow you find that maybe there's more about her death that you don't know, because you saw her jump in front of the subway. You know she committed suicide. But is the world that black and white? Or was there more going on that you don't know about? Maybe you don't have the full story. And then when you get the full story, you are very, very, very disappointed, because there are no twists, no turns, nothing worth reading in this book. Okay, if you're gonna read this book, read the introduction chapter, the really, really good chapter that ends on a cliffhanger. Act like it was a novella or something. Like a really, really short novella. Because that was the best part of this book. The rest of it was just forgettable. This next one is on my list because it's part of a series. And the first and second in this series were so good. The first was 4.5 stars. The second was 5 stars. So I was thinking, yes, it's just getting better and better and better. So the third in this companion novel series is going to be amazing. And I'm going to get all the feels from it. And I'm going to love it, love it, love it. Needless to say, I gave it 3 stars. That is The Wedding Party by Jasmine Guillory. So this book was supposed to be my introduction to enemies to lovers trope, and I thought I would love it. But it turns out that Theo and Caitlin, her name is not Caitlin. Alexa, oh shoot. I don't remember her name. Yeah, okay, well, it's fine. Theo and the girl that he's dating don't even really hate each other in the beginning. They just have kind of a small rivalry, but it's not even, like, believable. There's no chemistry between them. And honestly, I just thought that they were both dumb. So I did not connect with the characters. And I did not believe their love story. And I just didn't care about them. So I gave it 3 stars. It was an okay read. But I kind of wish I would have read just the first 2 and said that it was duology and not gone any further. That's why I don't read series very often, because I always get disappointed by one of them. Number 3 is a book by an author that was on my best of list, but he's on my most disappointing too. The book is Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. That's Riley Sager's newest book, and I was very disappointed by it. I still gave it 3 stars, but going into it, I was so excited for another Riley Sager book because I've read them all except for one. And I like them enough. Lock Every Door was like a 4-star for me. I enjoyed it. Final Girls, 5-star for me, and I love that book. And then we have Home Before Dark, which was a 3-star book for me. So this is on here purely because of the ending. I enjoyed the first 75% of this book. I really loved it. I read it in one night. And I thought it was a great haunted house book. And then the cool thing about this book was that you followed Jules? I don't think her name is Jules. I'm really bad at names. But you follow this girl this woman who goes back to her childhood home after her dad passes away. She didn't even know that they still own the home, but he left it to her. And then she goes back and she's like, I'm going to sell it. And she finds this book that her dad wrote. So you get alternating chapters. You get the chapter of what's going on right now. Then you get the chapter of her dad's book of what happened in the past in that house. And in that book, he claims that it's a haunted house. So I loved the haunted house trope. I just thought it was amazing. Until the end, when I felt like it was the cop-out of an ending. I absolutely hated it. I can't really tell you anymore without spoilers, but I felt like I had wasted my time reading that book because it was all fake. And I felt so gypped and like I was just lied to and kind of angry, actually, that I even bothered with that book. So that's why it's on this list. 2 is a book that I read at the beginning of this year. It's Brave New Girl by Rachel Vincent. And this one is purely on here because of the ending as well. So I loved the first 75% of this book. I thought, ooh, it's a good rebellion story and this weird dystopian future type book, and ooh, maybe I have a new series. Then I lost hope for every single character in one move that author made, in one thing that she wrote, and I'm never going to forgive her. And now I don't even care what happens to any of them now. I'm not bitter about it at all. Okay, and then the last one on my most disappointing books is on here again because of the ending. This one, I'm going to talk about spoilers. So, my number 1 disappointing book of the year is Life of Pi by Yann Martel. So I'm going to try and do this without spoilers for this first little bit, and then I'll tell you when I'm going to start spoilers. So you follow Pi as he comes to Canada, I think as he goes to Canada, and then the ship sinks and they happen to get onto a lifeboat, and it's kind of like their survival until they get rescued. The rest of this video is going to have spoilers for Life of Pi, so If you don't want to hear them, I suggest you leave. But thank you for watching this, and I will see you guys later. Now, to those of you that have stayed, let's get into why I really, really hated this book. I hated this book because the entire story, we are told one thing. We are told about the tiger and the zebra and the other man that, like, is in the other boat that passes them, and we are told this epic survival story with a tiger, and it sounds so good, and the writing was great. It was so addictive, and I loved it. But then Pi gets to Canada, and he has survived 3 months at sea, and his story changes. So he was not on the life raft with the tiger and the zebra, and that man in another boat never existed, and I'm so angry by it. I know that it was all a metaphor because it was supposed to be about his mom being the zebra and his uncle, or I don't know, some cannibal being the other person, and the tiger ate his mom, and I just, no, it was disgusting, it was disturbing, and I felt like I had been lied to again. I felt gypped out of a good story. Instead, they give me these humans that were sitting around the chef that was eating people, and then his only choice was to kill the chef, or the chef was gonna eat him alive, and what? I just don't care about that. I was more entertained by him surviving with the tiger in the boat. So, yeah, no, I just felt very, very mad when I read that, because it was all a lie. I just wasted my entire, 3 days reading that book. So those were my 10 most disappointing books of 2020. What books really disappointed you this year? Please leave them in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye!